Hello there. Hello. Welcome back, hopefully. I mean, maybe it's your first time here, but if you're back, welcome. Pull up a chair. We are your one-stop poetry podcast for all things creative. If this is your first time giving us a chance and listening to our series, you're so welcome as well. This is a podcast that is meant for everyone, really, because it's called We the Poets. I personally kind of feel like once you've written a poem or even had a go at writing a poem, you're kind of a poet. And there's so many ways we can be poetic. So if you are just having a little pop right now at this, seeing what's going on, you're so welcome. We've got a great guest coming up. And I've got Charley Genever.
Yes, I'm Charley Genever. Welcome.
But first off, Charley, you and I have been here for episode 1 and episode 2, both Selena and Ross.
Yes.
How are you finding the series so far?
Incredibly inspiring. We talked, I think, in Selena's episode about rating ourselves out of 10, and I was a 5. I'm already, I think, at like a 7. It's been so inspiring to listen to people's journeys, what they're writing about, their inspiration, but also the messy, chaotic bits that we don't talk about quite as much as we should. And this podcast series has been the perfect place to deep dive and have honest chats that brings us all together. So yeah, it's been wicked so far. Yeah.
And I really loved getting to chat with Ross. The fact that, Ross started off kind of in the 90s kind of comedy circuit and then playing all these games and then creating an opera from that. And when he talked about, I think for me, just creating a theatre show and still seeing it as being like a poem kind of blew my mind in a way. And I think that kind of reminded me at least that we don't really have to get so worked up on whether we're getting a poem right or wrong. We just got to kind of get a bit messy and muck about with it.
Yeah. I've like tattooed on my soul Selena's points about the difference between writing for creation and writing versus reaction. That is going to live with me forever, I think.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to any of those other episodes, there is so much that we honestly have got from those conversations. So very exciting news. We have our good friend Leanne Moden with us today. Hey, Leanne.
Hello. How's it going? We're all right.
Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I've got a horrible ear infection, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Are the headphones supporting? Or?
Still to be determined, I think. But I've never had an ear infection before, so I'm hoping to get a poem out of it. So
Great.
We'll see how we go.
Yeah, perfect place.
It's all material, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
We like adversity. That's very important in poetry.
And Leanne, you have been really important in this project because you've been overseeing the workshop series that we offer alongside this podcast. If you're just listening to the podcast for all the different kind of advice we've got, that's fantastic. But if you want to go a bit deeper and get some direct ideas and get some work down, maybe that you could even send in to us for the series.
We'd love that.
Leanne has got you covered with a phenomenal lineup. How have you found the workshop series so far?
Yeah, it's been really, really lovely. All the workshops are online and they're really good. We've got a series of different workshop leaders and every workshop is pitched so that you can get involved, whether you're writing your first poem ever or whether you've been writing for a long time and just want to get some more inspiration, or if perhaps you've written before and gone away from the poetry fold and you find yourself sort of wanting to get back into it. It's been pitched so that there is enough there for everybody to sort of grab on and find something and be inspired, which has been really, really lovely.
They're on Eventbrite, right?
They're on Eventbrite. They're also on our website, aren't they? So if you go to wethepoets.com and click at the top there on, I think it says workshops.
Yes.
And then you can see every single workshop. You can see the ones that we've already had. You can see the ones that are coming up. You can get yourself booked in. We would love to see you there.
Yeah, because they tend to sell out.
I think the thing that's really great about workshops as well is like you get to know a little bit about the other people, even on Zoom, even in an online environment, and it helps continually build that sense of community and that you're not writing in isolation and you're not writing on your own. You're writing with other people that you can then share bits with and you connect with outside of the workshop. I think that's actually how I first met Jasmine, I think possibly at a workshop. So yeah, it's one of the best places to really, as well as for your own inspiration, get to connect with other people.
Yeah.
And if you produce anything at a workshop and you want to send it to us, or if you just write something and you want to share it with us on the series, just send anything you've written. Ideally as an MP3. We love MP3s. Ideally as a WAV file. We love WAVs.
Disgusting MP3s.
Chris turns his nose up at MP3s these days. Send any WAV files you've got to Mark at wethepoets.com, and we will be sure to get back to you after you've had a listen. And if we can find a way to get your work on the series, we will do our absolute best. We're excited today because we've got Jasmine Gardosi coming in. We've all kind of gushed a bit over her poem Roller Coaster, which she kind of...
Sensational.
Yeah, the video was banging, right? Yeah. It's a poem all about the highs and lows of going through COVID, mostly the kind of confusion, right, that we went through with the lockdowns. But in the video, Jasmine was actually on a roller coaster being spun around all over the place.
Yeah.
That was super cool. Anything else you guys are hoping to get out of the chat at all?
I think for me, I see a lot of like synergy, similarities in kind of mine and Jazz's journey. Yeah, I'm just really excited to hear them kind of deep dive maybe a little bit more into their identity and their queerness and what that's been like as a professional poet. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's unsaid about that experience that I'm really keen to know more about.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, in a landscape that is not that accepting at the moment, it feels like.
Absolutely.
And how about you, Leanne?
I want to hear more about the Birmingham Poet Laureate process and what that's like and how that feels to sort of get to that place in your career. Yeah, I'm really interested in that. Yeah,
Jasmine is Birmingham Poet Laureate, but it's also got a very exciting accolade to share with us as well. So let's hear a piece that was created at one of these workshops. Leanne?
Yeah, so Tara Singh is a poet based in Nottingham, and they came along to one of our We the Poets workshops. This piece is called Will Be, and it's about the uncertainty of life, trepidation, and the lengths we go to keep people around us safe.
Will be. Pretend to know what we are doing. Arms glued to body. Can't see my sweat-stained pits. Chatty, half smile. X-rays, CT scan, ultrasound. Fine, okay. You need me to tell you it's going to be okay. I let you believe that my dreams reveal things. Doctors don't always know. I have the gift, a sixth sense, a third eye, a deeply felt intuition passed through the generations. Ancestors reached through the dark with messages. Grandchild of the village palm reader. It's only rational to believe me. I hold your hand. It will be okay. It will be okay. It will all be okay.
Thank you so much to Tara Singh. Just to say that not only does Tara create amazing work at our workshops, but Tara also runs an online poetry workshop that all are welcome to on the first and third Tuesday of the month from 6 till 7:30 p.m. It is called the Speak the Word Poetry Salon, where a poem is shared and everybody creates work from a prompt. If you want to search for that, that's Speak the Word Poetry Salon, and you will be in great hands. Okay. We have with us in the studio right now Jasmine Gardosi. Hey, Jasmine.
Hey. How you doing?
Yeah, good. How have you been?
Feel like I haven't stopped, really, but in a really, really fun way. You know when you're flying by the seat of your pants?
Yeah.
You're still flying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. So the bit in the cartoon where the coyote is sort of chasing someone, has run off the cliff, but they're still running and they're still elevated before they realize that they're going to fall. I'm just still like running, like,
yeah,
like in the air. Like that's how fast my legs are going, but it's joyful at the same time. I'm soaring.
What's the roadrunner you're chasing then?
Deadlines or just beautiful, amazing, creative adventures. You know?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I feel very lucky. I'm living the dream. The dream has lots of admin, but it's still the dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How long has it been like this for then?
I think in the last few years, I'd say, like just before I became Birmingham Poet Laureate, and through till now, it's just I've been soaring more and more, stepping more into my own, more and more, learning who I am. So it's beautiful to truly feel like I'm stepping into myself. You know? Yeah.
I think that's when you start out, the expectation is that you already know who you are. You're already writing in like your but actually I relate so much to what you're saying, because I feel the same. Like I only really feel like I'm just starting to know authentically who I actually am as a poet, and how to put that in all aspects of what it means to be a poet and not just the poems themselves.
What for you, Jasmine, was really got you to this point now where it's so busy, do you think? Have there been any kind of key moments?
I think when I was first shortlisted for Birmingham Poet Laureate, I was running like workshops or Poet's Place, which is a free thing that I just ran voluntarily in the Birmingham Library. I was 22 years old. And then I was just said to the current Birmingham Poet Laureate, do you think I should apply? And she was like, how old are you? 22. That's very young. Yeah, give it a go. So I got shortlisted.
So sorry, what's the stages? Because I think that'd be really interesting.
So you apply. You have to write poems of a certain length, which for me is very challenging when you perform your poems rather than writing them down, and then give a cover letter, you know, and then maybe you will get selected to be shortlisted. I was so happy when I didn't get it, but that was great because I was motivated. I had the accolade, but no responsibility. And that meant that in 2 years' time, because it's every 2 years, I applied again. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm going to smash it this time. I'm going to smash it. Oh, that interview went so well. I think this is my time. Didn't get it again. And I'm like, I was devastated that time. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give them hell. And it pushed me for the next 2 years to get better and to do more in my craft. To win slams, to start getting gigs outside of Birmingham, to submit poetry towards awards like the Outspoken Awards, for example. Almost like the Poet Laureate was a journey that I could go on, a mountain, the top of a mountain. And it was very far away when I was 22, but I could just crawl my way up, but also like enjoy the view every time the higher I got or the more I did. So that meant by the third time I applied, I was like, yes, let's do this. I can't wait. Woo, this is the one. I've shown over these 6 years how much I've done. Got shortlisted again. Didn't get it. Just kept going. So I used it as inspiration to write that. By the fourth time I applied for it, I also didn't get it. I was relieved, though, because I knew it needed to not go to me. It was not my time. It was Casey Bailey's time, who is an incredible poet, was an incredible Birmingham Poet Laureate, who represented the city in the way that it needed to be represented at that time. And then finally, in 2022, I applied for it again. But this time, Birmingham Poet Laureate was not this distant peak of a mountain, this abstract thing where I thought, okay, please choose me. And that meant that by the time I happened to reach it, it was like an old friend. And I was like, it's nice to see you. I would have been okay if I didn't see you as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm kind of cool with this. And weirdly, that makes it balances the relationship better.
It does. But it doesn't define me because I've built so much and I know who I am before that.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, that idea of, you know, the persistence and the picking yourself up once you've not had something and making sure that you've always got irons in the fire in different places in order to sort of keep working on your craft and keep improving and keep going back to things if it's something that you want.
Yeah, and people don't see the imperfectness of it, the messiness of it. They just see that tip of the iceberg. You know, your poem went viral on PBS, the roller coaster poem. It went viral on Twitter. Thank you. But that was recorded at West Midlands Safari Park. You don't think I tried Alton Towers? Thorpe Park?
Did they say
Manor?
No, or did they was it silent?
I mean, let's not name and shame here. But, I was just a lonely little poet. Why would they want to close down a ride for me?
Yeah, of
I
course.
completely understand it. You know what I mean?
Just for anyone listening, if you haven't, this piece probably worth mentioning. So this piece was about going through COVID,
Yes.
right, and experiencing the kind of roller coaster of that experience. And for that, Jasmine made a video. You should definitely check it out. We'll put a link in the description of this episode, in which Jasmine, you were on this roller coaster ride.
Yes.
And so you did write to apply.
I wrote to ask Alton Towers, can we go on your rides and film? And we didn't hear back, which I understand because that's a lot of admin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I asked. And then we went to West Midlands Safari Park, me and my filmmaker, Paul Stringer. We looked so sus because we were just two adults walking around in the rain with like a GoPro, just as like recce, and like it looked so weird. Like, were we on a date? I'm like Paul as a partner, and I'm definitely very, very queer, so it's not a thing. So we went, and then we were like, oh, you know what? That's a great ride to do it on. It was empty because it was raining. So let's come back here in a month when it's also the weather's a bit naff. I've got a recording of the roller coaster now. We've tested that it can work, that the visual looks okay. So now I'm going to write a poem to the ups and downs of the roller coaster.
Oh, I didn't realise you did it that way round.
No, yeah.
Wow.
No, it was cool because like I like to like stroke my chin beard when I say this. The sonnet is a form. It has its vaulters and its endings and its rhyming couplets and its landing. So too does a roller coaster. So I wrote the poem with the twists and turns of the vaulters and the ups and the downs. I could shape the poem based on the form of the roller coaster.
Amazing.
I have to stop stroking my chin beard
Always
now.
thinking in metaphors, right?
That's cool. It's good as well that message about you got to fail quite a lot. I just don't think sometimes people see the number of rejections you're getting, or if you want to keep doing this in the arts, maybe it's just me and I get loads of them. You just got to keep accepting.
Yeah.
It feels like you're just constantly trying to like go up. You know, in Gladiators, the Travelator?
Yes.
Like that's what it is, kind of like that's the tide, but you just keep on going through that.
Yes.
I'm doing this thing at the moment where I'm aiming for 100 rejections this year.
Nice.
And it's really good because it gives you the impetus to keep sending stuff out to places with the element of if you don't get it, then you can put a little tally on your rejection list. So you're still getting that little buzz of serotonin. And it's really working for me.
Love that.
That is a banging idea.
It's not my idea, but I'm going to fully take it as mine for this podcast.
Yeah.
Also, that messiness happens with rejections, but also being a beginner in something. So I put myself in a position just before COVID where I decided to learn beatboxing. And suddenly I was a beginner again at something. And I felt horrible because I felt like I got to a point of confidence in performance. And suddenly now I was starting to get shit or be shit at something, which was beatboxing. And I sucked because when you're learning how to beatbox, you sound terrible. And you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get murked online, right? Like, because my beatbox, like my kick drums, like, and it just sounded crap. But I had this idea in mind. I just gripped onto it like a Rottweiler. Like, I want to create a poem where you need to speak whilst beatboxing. And I knew exactly like what kind of words I would use, but I needed to learn how to beatbox first. So it's legit. Fortunately, the pandemic meant that I could just practice in private. And so then the particular poem emerged from that, actually, which I still perform.
We've got to hear it.
We need
to hear it.
Yeah. I think that's a good, yeah.
Let's do it.
This is for the poets or anyone who's had to stand up and speak for the first time. And then every time after that, you know what happens. The way up, the way up, the way our pulse is booming too loud. And the panic is pounding our head. And the blood is blushing our face. And our body has bottled to still. And our being is blocked by our fear. And they both just blend into one, and the pumping buries our voice. Heartbeat just blares over all. It's a pistol backfired, bashed up button, bursting piper, broken buzzer, blood cells bounce from pulse to pulse and push the pace like pasta, parcel, busy body, brains are bust, our belly boiling black and blue, bolting back the beta blockers, blitzing boostle blown apart. Purple, we people, we problems, we babble like babies till purple, then play back the blabber, then bubber at bumbles, we bust by them bubble, then bubble, play paper, we're bubbles, the blubber, share pushing to clipping up, pushing to clipping up, pushing to clipping up, pushing to clipping up, clipping up, clipping up, pushing to clipping up, pushing to clipping up, pushing to keeping our silence by our own bodies. Bound back by the soundtrack of like, what are we more of? You know? Our thoughts or our awkwardness? Why talk when we're so mortified when all we get is cortisol and shorter lives? It's so hard to tell where your ambition starts when there's no end to that ammunition heart of. But we can. We can. Like, we can be them both, though. Right? Like, we can be the panic and be the passion. We can bring our baggage and bring our best still. We can be the broken, then be the breakthrough. Be the bullied, then bite the bullet. Embrace the beat, play the beat. Be the beaten, then be the beat. Beat the bar, then be the bar. Breathe the battlefield, breathe in broader. We big bangs, we bagpipes, we boomboxes, blueprints, we pupils of purpose. We black belts in backbone, be berserk, be bloody, bombard, perplex. Be bold, be bare, be bad, be boss, be proof, be prone, be proud, be pro, be beast, be boast, be pushed to be push to be better, 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 be poet.
Hey.
Wow.
Incredible.
Wow.
So the laureateship, if you were speaking to your 16-year-old self and told them about it, what would they think?
Oh, yeah, well, if you'd spoken to me when I was a teenager, especially an early teenager, you would have said, okay, there's no way that kid is going to grow up to do anything remotely related to public speaking.
Yeah.
And that includes poetry.
Why is that?
Found it hard to speak. In certain ways, it sometimes manifested as mumbling, as getting very anxious whilst talking, and then occasionally also stammering as well, or just being unable to just form thoughts and express them. That was a problem in school. You know, when you have to read out that paragraph, go around in class, that was my worst nightmare. And I would get so hot and flushed and like my face would start to beat with my heart. And that's kind of what that poem is about, really. But it was also just putting my hand up in class sometimes, or if it was talking to a teacher or talking to my parents or talking to my peers in school, I couldn't.
Was it these letters on the page that were changing, or was it just expressing anything that you had thought?
It was the letters on the page. They'd come up too quickly for me and they'd take me by surprise. But also, I only learnt later there were different letters that were kicking my ass. I very much struggled with OCD when I was younger. I still do. I still have hand sanitizer in my pocket. If you shake my hand, I will hand sanitize. It's not personal. There were many ways in which it fed into that lack of confidence when I was growing up. It was other things as well. The older I got, like being queer, to not have the letters to describe yourself, but you're noticing that you're not attracted to boys when everyone around you is, but instead you are crushing on your girl friends and thinking that that's actually a monstrous thing. It's some sort of betrayal. There's issues of trust involved, and there's no name for it. And at 16, I was in a relationship with a guy. And I remember thinking at the time, just idly in the back of my head, yeah, I would rather die alone than ever seek happiness with a woman, because that would just be too embarrassing. That's how deep I was in the stigma at the time. I kind of knew that thought was there, even though I was with a dude at the time. So I was battling with OCD then, didn't have a name for it. I was writing a poem. That's actually one of the first poems I ever performed at 16. It was about OCD. I didn't have the name for it at the time, but that's what it was. And that's the first time my teacher said, well, that's a spoken piece of work, that is. So I'm like, what does that mean? She says it was supposed to be read aloud. I'm like, is that even a thing? But also at that same time, I was containing these other letters inside of me, LGBTQ plus. Like, these letters were kicking my ass. I didn't know them. OCD was kicking my ass. And only recently realizing that more letters, like ADHD, were also kicking my ass at the time. I was not given the language to understand myself. And when you do not have the language to understand yourself, you don't feel like you're okay. You don't feel like there's a name for this, that it's legitimate, that you are legitimate, like you belong. And therefore, why on earth does it make any sense for you to say anything out loud? So if you're already struggling with speaking out loud, it further compounds it. Yes, the letters on the page came up for me too quick, but also when I was speaking to other people, when I was speaking to a teacher, to my parents, to a friendship group, there wasn't anything worthy or valid for me to say. So that's why, nothing came out.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because it was through poetry.
Right, yeah.
That I was like, oh, actually, okay, no, I've got a voice. I've got things to say. So that's the first poem I kind of wrote and then performed was something about OCD. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have words for it, but there it is in the poem.
So writing about these letters and understanding these letters and how they made you who you were and taking pride in that. That's gone really well, like for your own kind of well-being, it sounds like, but also, I mean, you are now an honorary doctor of letters.
That's correct, yes. I think it's really beautiful. I love the irony of it. It's not a full PhD. My sister has been busting her ass for the last many years getting an actual PhD. I did not. But it's a recognition of contributions to literature. So all I get is the email from Newman University in Birmingham telling me that they would like to award me this. But it's officially Doctor of Letters, which was lovely. And it was only when I dressed up in all the robes and walked out to give my speech, when I realized in the speech I needed to talk about how I was absolutely drowned by all of these letters, whether it's letters on the page, which just ruled me and it kicked my ass, or letters which I didn't have to label myself or to give myself identity or understanding, which now I have more rule over, you know? Sometimes we never shake off this feeling that, oh, I'm too different and therefore I'm not valid, and I can't do it, you know? And I'm incredibly lucky that I found poetry, not just poetry, but performance poetry, because poetry means that you can write about the things that make you different, but also performance poetry means that you can practice your voice. And I needed those two things. I needed not just to own what made me different, but also to then practice saying it out loud. And that means that now I can actually speak fluently. If you give me something to read, I rock at it. What? I just needed lots and lots and lots and lots of repetition and practice. The thing that makes you different is the thing that will help you make a difference. I think it was 2022. I had one of my poems arranged for BBC Symphony Orchestra. It's broadcast on BBC4. And the riff of it is pretending to be straight is like dancing to music you hate. That's kind of the riff of the song. If you'd told 16-year-old me, so your queerness is going to be broadcast across like national television, I would have been like, yeah, I feel very fortunate knowing that.
That's quite interesting because it then comes back to what we were saying about persistence and keeping going and keeping things ticking over and getting to a place where you feel comfortable is all about persistence and repetition and getting to...
Ooh.
Do you think?
Yeah. I never thought about it like that before, but it is. It is. And you won't be comfortable the first time.
Yeah, so do you have an example of of a piece that kind of captures what you've just been talking about the importance of letters?
I have a piece which kind of for me defines maybe not the importance of letters, but it defines where I'm at in sort of my journey of acceptance. This poem is in my show about gender identity. I usually perform it with music, but it feels like really nice to just be able to perform it with you guys here intimately without music, if that's all right.
Yeah,
It's
wicked.
really nice. I can
it.
sit down and just offer this poem to you here. Have you ever felt the beat of your own drum, but didn't let yourself dance to it? Just sat there, arms tight against side, immobile, to not give yourself away? Never felt that? Doesn't it suck to deny something that swells inside you? Is it just a trans thing, or does who you are also hit the ceiling and walls of what you're expected to be? Is it just me and my genderqueer ass, or have you ever felt like you're failing some aspect of man or of woman? What if you don't have to be gender questioning in order to question gender? What if you don't have to be transitioning in order to transcend into more than what was wanted of you? What if you're not a waste of a woman? What if you are man enough? What if your softness is not a disappointment? What if your sensitivity is not an exception to the rule? What if your dress sense is not absurd? What if your desires are not an anomaly? What if there are as many ways of being a woman as there are women? What if there are as many ways of being a man as there are men? What if you are everything you are supposed to be? What if there are as many genders in this room as there are people? What if there's many genders in this world as there are people? What if we're all transitioning into a wholer understanding of ourselves? What if we're all just a little bit on the way back to ourselves, you know? Trans or not, questioning or not. I wish you gender euphoria. And I wish you gender euphoria. And I wish you gender euphoria. I wish you purpose. I wish you belonging. I wish you brightness. I wish you excitement. You too deserve to recognize the parts you still perform, and the parts that make you tired, and the parts that you take pride in, the parts that make you walk upright, chest out in a room full of strangers who don't know who you are, who don't need to. I wish you the permission to explore, to trust yourself, to look your shame in the face and say, I see you for what you are, and I wish you too to see yourself for what you are. You too deserve to feel your body as the home that it is. I wish you gender euphoria. And I wish you gender euphoria. And I wish you gender euphoria. I wish you that moment and the joy of the motion after, as the penny on who you are drops, and you can just follow where it rolls.
That was fantastic.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh, that's left me emotional, and like I need to see the show immediately. It'd be great to know about what's next with it and beyond that for you.
No, yeah, thank you. First of all, I love performing that poem because it very much epitomizes like where I'm at with things. I was very lucky to tour it around the UK last summer, and now I would like to kind of take it international. So that's kind of what's next for that. It's called Dancing to Music You Hate, the show. It's kind of starts with sexuality, goes into gender identity, and it's wonderful because I think one of the legacies I want to leave is Birmingham Poet Laureate is just to be a happy trans person. It's simply radical just to be a happy trans person. There's a lot of joy for me in blending poetry with music. Music being the gateway drug into poetry for a lot of people, it just makes it a lot more accessible. I'm writing more beatbox poems. I've been commissioned to write a rock anthem for Birmingham.
Excellent.
Yes. And so just, because poetry can sometimes be very cerebral, but then music can be such a beautifully bodily thing, So both get rewarded for me and also the listeners when I put them both together, which I really like. So I kind of am doing more of that, but also there's a lot of joy because the show has like a first half where it's an open mic with my band, very much inspired by incredible nights like Tung Fu, or in Birmingham Funkintelliky, or musical mouthpieces. These are all nights where there are poets who collaborate with bands or more recently tell it to the music. And what this does and what those nights do and what I like doing in my own music poetry exploits is combining and crossing over the poetry community and the music community. I think that's kind of important, especially at a time when not just Birmingham, places everywhere, we are feeling more isolated as art communities. So one of the things that we can do is come together and join our forces. And the more musicians get to know more poets, the more we collaborate, the stronger we can be. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really lovely. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing more of that, to be honest.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. If people want to check out your work, Jasmine, and follow you as you go on tour,
yes,
where's the best place to find you?
My website is jasminegardosi.com. That's my first name and my last name.com. And so is my Instagram. It helps having a hard to spell name.
I relate.
Yeah. Instagram is the same, Jasmine Gardosi. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. They're cool.
I mean, Twitter's lovely now. It's really improved over last year.
Yes, it has. It even is still called Twitter, isn't it? Someone was recently saying you really got to get on TikTok, Jazz, and so hopefully by the time this episode is released, I will be on TikTok.
It's interesting as well, I suppose, talking about the working with music, because we, the poets, we have got our workshop series that we're talking about at the start of this series with Leanne, who's overseeing that. Now, this Thursday, the 18th of July, if you're interested in expanding your writing a little bit, we have got Keely Mills. You may have heard her at some...
Who's that?
Who's that? Keely, who you've heard on the previous episodes of this series, she's running a workshop called Exercise Your Empathy, which will help you use your work to understand the world and your feelings within it. It's from 6 or 7:30 p.m. We'll put a link in the description of the episode for how to find that.
So the next one after that is Music and Poetry with Jay Sandu. So obviously that's really, that ties in really nicely to what we've been talking about. Yeah. And that one is on Thursday, the 19th of September. And it's all about thinking about melodies and rhythm in your work and how and where and why and all the technicalities of getting music in there and musicality into your work. So I'm really psyched for that one. I'm psyched for Keely's as well. I think it's going to be fantastic. So do get involved and come along to some of the workshops. They're all online, so very easy to get to. You can do them from your bedroom, from your kitchen, from your downstairs loo if you want. We're not fussy. But yeah, and they are £7 each.
Yes.
So if fees are a barrier for you, you can always find us on the website and click through and contact us and let us know, and we can sort you something out, because we want as many people to get involved and to get sharing their poetry.
I think that talk about legacy is a very integral thing. I guess maybe a question is we might have to think about is, what do we want the legacy of this series to be? Talking personally, I don't really see that any of us is like a poet in isolation.
Yes.
And I think when we came up with this idea of the podcast, the word "we" is very important as much as the word poets, right? The idea that we're all in this together. It's so lovely to hear Jasmine speak and share her experiences. But also, we want to hear about yours as well. If you want to write about how these episodes are affecting you, anything that you're creating as a result of it, just email anything you've written or your thoughts at all to mark@wethepoets.com, and we will be sure to play those. What do you guys hope we get from the end of this series?
Oh, I think for me, like you were saying, I think the whole point of poetry is the community and the connection, isn't it? So I feel like if we connect with people and sort of foster that sense of community through the workshops, through the podcast, through us all sort of collectively listening and sharing our stories, I think that's the most important thing to me, definitely.
Yeah, I would echo all of that. And I think for me, it's something that Jazz said earlier about people feeling empowered to be their true selves, and how poetry can be a vehicle and a medium for that, and a platform. So yeah, I think more people feeling their feels, being themselves, and making some cool words.
You've been doing this as well, because Charley's actually so far has written a poem after each guest has been in.
And now it's documented on the series, so I have to keep it up.
But yeah, we feel very inspired getting to chat with poets like Jasmine, and that kind of interconnection we have, how we can inspire each other, how we can remain maybe more curious than judgmental about what we're each creating, and what we can kind of gain from it, I think is really, really powerful. So yeah, thank you for joining us for it. Just for housekeeping's sake, my name is Mark Grist. We've also got Leanne Moden and Charley Genever here with Chris Barn in the studio at Backland Studio. We are so grateful to have had Jasmine Gardosi sharing such an amazing work with us. A round of applause for Jasmine. And thank you guys for listening. And we of course should mention Arts Council England. This podcast exists thanks to public funding through a project grant with them. And finally, thank you so much for listening and for being on this journey with us together. To finish off, Charley, the piece we might share.
Oh, yes, I'd love to intro this one. So this piece that we're going to end on is written by Hilary Steele, who's Peterborough-based poet. And it kind of serendipitously relates to some of the conversation that we've been having, particularly about laureate. So Hilary went for Peterborough Poet Laureate, was runner-up this year, and she entered with this poem, which I don't think she'd mind me sharing, but she very nearly didn't enter, but she wanted to because of the subject matter of this poem, and it's about her trans daughter and trans rights. And I think it's just a perfect poem to end on today.
I'm not a living legend. I still have lots to learn. I'm an ordinary parent of an extraordinary girl. It's the first thing they will ask you. Do you want a son or daughter? And it's such a stupid question because it's not like you can order. I chose not to know, but people had opinions. Is the bump set high or low? How you set a needle swinging? And it's just a bit of folklore, and you don't pay it much mind. Especially when the baby's born and immediately you find the old wives are wrong. You laugh, move on. It's not a major trauma. And there really is no reason why there should be any drama when she tells you some years later she's your daughter, not your son. And it turns out that your aunties have been right all along. It's not something we're used to. I know it can seem strange, but what we need to understand is it's not our child that's changed. They're exactly who they've always been, and we are catching up. The muddle's in our heads, not theirs. It's our job to adjust. There's many times I lie awake till her key turns in the door. in terror that tonight's the night she won't come home at all. We ordinary parents know that our trans sons and daughters are conscripts in a culture war and marked as cannon fodder. I do fear for the future and the horrors it could bring, but history has taught us that love will always win. I'm not a living legend, not special or well known. I'm an ordinary parent, and we do not stand alone.